Well, good evening and welcome to another session of Seaside Chats with the Salve Admit Guy. I am the Salve Admit Guy, Jim Fowler, Vice President for Enrollment Management at remarkable, amazing, incredible Salve Regina University from my virtual position overlooking the Atlantic Ocean on the Cliff Walk in Newport, Rhode Island. If you have been following this series of chats that we've been holding throughout the fall, these programs are designed to expose you to aspects of campus life. Right now, most specifically to various academic programs, but we'll be having other topics throughout the course of the year as well, some student life topics and some engagement topics. So be sure to be checking your email for regular scheduled programs or logging in to the web page associated with Seaside Chats so you can see what's coming up next. We're constantly adding programs as we move throughout the fall. But this evening's program, I'm very privileged to have with me Dr. Paula Martasian to talk about opportunities for students in the psychology program at Salve Regina University. Dr. Martasian, good evening. How are you?
I'm well, Jim, and you?
I'm terrific. It's it's that wonderful brisk fall time of year. I feel good about being able to put a sweater on and enjoy being able to smell the air when you go outside and the leaves and certainly the smells of the ocean. It's one of my favorite times of year.
Same here.
So to get started with, Dr. Martasian, if you could just kind of share a little bit about your background, what your area of research specialization is, and what brought you to your position as chair of the psychology department at Salve Regina.
Sure. So my education, I have a PhD and master's degree in experimental psychology, which is a very scientific based, and I liked it because it has a lot of variety in it. And so some of that variety is specialties in learning and motivation, biological psychology. Once I came to Salve, I wasn't really looking for a job. I had a great job and everything. And a friend of mine said, oh, look, here's an ad for a place in Rhode Island. And I tried to throw it away, but once you see Salve, you can't. And so I came to interview and I was just so taken with both the mission of the university, the mission of the psychology department, and I realized in that moment what had been missing for over 10 years of my teaching and working with students other places. And very fortunately, we were a very good match. So I've been here 21 years, and I teach courses in all of those areas that I just mentioned, and I love those areas. Once I started here at Salve, my research was focused for the first 10 years on the teaching of psychology. So another piece of my background that works well with Salve students is I was an undergraduate psychology major and a certified first grade teacher. And some of the best training I got to be a college professor was as a first grade teacher, right? Tell them what you're going to teach them, and then assess them. I just love it. And then the last 10 years, I've shifted my focus more on creating field or volunteer opportunities for students who like, I'm not sure what clients or age groups or where I want to work. And so we set up opportunities for them to connect with different agencies around Newport area so that they can try it out. And then the other part that I've dedicated my time to that has really been the most, I know it will sound cliche, but the most meaningful experiences of my life have been here at Salve going on service trips with students. And so I've done 2 international service trips to Nicaragua when it was safe. We only go when it's safe. And then 2 trips to West Virginia with students. And then we were just setting up a site visit at the Cheyenne River Reservation to work with Lakota people. And these are Salve students and Salve at their best. And I never dreamed I would have the opportunity to work and live in a bunkhouse and cook and do chores together. And it's very, very meaningful work. So that's where I've dedicated my time the last 10 years.
Well, and that really aligns with Salve's mission. I think that what I always enjoy talking about when I'm talking about Salve to prospective students and families is this idea that the mission at Salve is really a true guidepost for everything that we do curricularly and co-curricularly on campus. And while every university and college has a mission statement, Salve's mission statement is much more overt and certainly much more critical to how we engage students on a day-to-day basis. And I think sometimes when families hear that, they don't quite get that until you talk to faculty and hear these experiences that are very intentionally created to provide the students not only an appropriate curricular lens, but one that is really informed by the Mercy mission and the mission statement of the university.
I totally agree.
Now, Dr. Martasian, psychology is one of those academic majors that is somewhat ubiquitous in higher education in that every liberal arts college or university has a psychology program. Psychology sometimes can be a default major for some students who aren't really sure what they want to major in, but they feel like they have to major in something. And psychology is broad enough that it covers a lot of different areas. Great place to sort of get started. So I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the structure of Salve psychology curriculum and maybe what makes it unique as students are looking at psychology programs at a wide variety of institutions.
Sure. So we very intentionally have kept up with the American Psychological Association, which is our sort of governing body, on what they say an undergraduate in psychology should know. And we've built a foundation, but we intentionally do not overcredit our students. So they have a very strong foundation, and combined with the Salve's core liberal arts makes our students very, very skilled in their reading, their writing, their communication skills. They're very well sought after. So having psychology in a strong liberal arts curriculum is one of our strengths. And then the things that we do that doesn't happen at other schools is a lot of individualized planning and finding out what that student's passion is and then creating their educational experience. So with psychology, for example, some students want to work with children in different settings, so we'll encourage them maybe to get a special education minor. We have a lot of double majors right now in the administrative justice and psychology, which goes very well together. So if you want to, especially with juvenile rehabilitation, you need a strong background in psychology to be able to do that work. And so we bring that together. We have a lot of students interested in that also either minor or double major with art and music. And now we're picking up dance as well, because there's this movement in the holistic treatment of people that is expressive arts. So some of our students will go on in to graduate school as for music therapy or art therapy, and now dance therapy is starting to develop as well. So some of the unique things we do is we really get to know our students well and say, let's start taking some additional classes that will complement your psychology major and see where that goes. Some other things that we do, again, are the field work. So I'll work with students, juniors and seniors, and if they have an interest, for example, in working with children, but they haven't had a lot of experience, we'll contact Newport Child and Family Services. I had a student who wanted to go on to be work in speech pathology, and so she worked in the very young center and watched language development, and then did an independent study and wrote up her portfolio on language development, and that got her into the graduate school program that she wanted. So we do those field placements that students then can take for college credit as one of their psych electives. And then the other unique thing that we just, not that we take it for granted, but it's just such a normal part of their education that we don't realize they don't get that elsewhere, is the ability to do independent research. And so other big schools have to save that research experience for their master's and PhD students. And I've been told by some of our newer faculty have come from different places, there is no way undergraduates would get the kind of attention and that individualized research experience to figure out whether they want to go on to graduate school or work in certain areas. So I think one of the things that we do really well is we really develop the whole student and individualize their education, and we get to know them, and we see that little light, spark, and we say, oh, there it is. Let's combine that with your psychology.
Yeah, I think you really hit on a couple things that are definitely cornerstones of Salve's approach and philosophy towards education, of making sure that we provide students with a strong opportunity to bridge the theoretical and the practical on a day-to-day basis, both in and outside the classroom. And when I think about the opportunities for research, lots of colleges and universities talk about the opportunity for undergraduate research, but in my experience, many don't actually deliver for the whole. There's always, a few opportunities and a few outliers here that get pulled into classes and get pulled in by faculty into research experiences. But at Salve, it's such an intentional part of the educational experience to encourage students to engage in those research experiences through mentorship with faculty. Can you talk a little bit more about how the faculty sort of make that into reality, and maybe talk about some of the outcomes associated with that? I know SRU Day is a highlight of the year for psychology students, and I know we've also have a number of students that have had the opportunity to present at conferences on the undergraduate level.
Yes, and so one of the things we, again, following our updating the curriculum years ago to our advantage, our students' advantage, is we created a year-long statistics and research methods course. Now, those that have math anxiety, don't panic. So I see the students early on in intro, and you must say math and stats, and it's like, and I was that person. I froze, and I would fail my stats classes, right?
Okay. You must have known me in graduate school. When I heard stats, I was like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? I'm a humanities guy.
Exactly. So we see them, right? Just so that you know the kind of attention they're getting. So the psychology faculty member who mentors them, works with them all year long. She puts them in small groups, she teaches them, and the students come up with a research question and then how to design that study, collect the data, and analyze it. And then those students are presenting at what you said, this beautiful showcase of student work, and all of those groups present at this SRU conference day at Salve. And I walk, and they're dressed professionally, and I walk up to them and I'm like, look what you did. This is amazing. And they're all smiles and they're very proud, and well, they should be. It's a huge accomplishment. And that professor, now she teaches a year-long stats and research methods. She teaches other classes too. She was voted by the Salve student body for the Teacher of the Year award last year. That says something, right? They're excited, they have fun with it, and they learn a great deal, and it really builds your confidence to take something that you're not so sure about, but to really be taught it well and to give it a lot of opportunity to practice and then polish it. It's an amazing professional skill. Some of our students will then seek out different faculty to do more research studies, and they presented at in the same conference level. It's not a student conference. They're presenting with other professors and graduate students across the country in either the Eastern Psychological Association or the American Psychological Association, these big national conventions. And that's usually, again, a lot of faculty will just donate their time and work year long with a student or a small group that have those interests. And that's, again, what we said about these specialized. And you don't know it until you get involved and you get your own question. You're like, yeah, I get to like study it and I get to interpret it. It's an amazing experience.
Well, and I think what is particularly special about that is we have sort of two types of students that come to Salve sometimes. Ones are the students that come to Salve in particular because they know we have this strong research bent and they're excited by it and they want that to be part of their undergraduate experience. The others are some that may come in and feel as though they don't necessarily have the preparation or the readiness to do that higher level research. But the faculty do such an excellent job of really identifying for them their strengths and their capability to really capitalize on those research opportunities. And so even the student that might feel a small sense of either lack of confidence or just never even considered that research might be an option for them are really strongly encouraged, which I think is quite wonderful.
There's nothing like investigating your own answer and then coming up with, what they find. It's great.
Now I want to cut back to something that you referenced briefly a couple minutes ago. You were talking about sort of interdisciplinary opportunities, and the opportunities to do double majors, the opportunities to do minors. In my observation of higher education, particularly over the last decade, I've seen this really dramatic shift away from the concept of tight specialization on the undergraduate level, more towards the understanding that if you get too specialized from day one, you actually end up limiting opportunities for yourself. Whereas having a more interdisciplinary approach to your educational experiences allows you to have this really broad, strong foundation to build upon, whether it's in graduate school, whether it's progressing through careers over the course of lifetime, and allows students with much greater opportunity long-term because they've exposed themselves to more than just, I'm just going to do abnormal behavioral psychology, or I'm just going to do this research psychology on consumer behavior or something like that. Can you delve into that a little bit more, probably more articulately than I am, about the value of that interdisciplinary experience?
Yeah, you describe it really well, and that's a huge shift. So, and I think it's really important and what Salve does best in educating the whole student. And so we're not territorial. All Salve students are all our students. So for example, a student comes in and they're not sure, they've never had a class in different areas, but they're describing to me what they think, how they might work with either future clients or agencies. And I'll say, for example, take a social work class, because that will expose you to something you've never been exposed to and how agencies deliver and provide services. And then they take several classes, and then if it becomes evident that social work is more to their liking, we say, great, make the psychology your minor and go for social work and pursue that. And I tell our students that the job that they're going to have doesn't even exist right now. So what you need to do is take this strong liberal arts education at Salve with psychology, with all these other things. And then by sophomore, junior year, we're going to say, okay, what makes sense? Does a double major still make sense? Or does dropping something to a minor because you have these other two minors going on? Another area that's just exploding is the whole biological psychology and neuroscience. And so the psychology and biology department years ago created a minor so that some of the required psych courses count towards it and some of the required biology courses so that they can bring it together. And there's so many different directions to go in that these days. So you're absolutely right. And they can get that at Salve.
Yeah, in that way, I think Salve is very much ahead of the curve of many of the colleges and universities I've been exposed to, that we've really embraced that idea. I mean, I think back, even 20 years ago when, something like you mentioned performing arts and the idea of art therapy or music therapy was something that is a relatively new field. I think people, younger folk probably don't realize that didn't exist forever. And, certainly Salve has a number of graduates that have gone down that path because they were exposed to it early, because the university embraced those new approaches to applying psychology. Let's talk a little bit more about, sorry, go ahead.
No, you made me realize, so here's one way that we work together at Salve for the betterment of our students. social work, music department, and psychology are co-sponsor a music therapy course that's open to all students. And just like you said, our psychology students, social work, music, they're all like, what? I can take a music therapy workshop. And again, that has opened so many doors for the different students. So that's a great example.
So we've brushed on some of the career and postgraduate opportunities, but you could talk a little bit more about what avenues are typical of Salve students upon graduation, and maybe even some areas that are emerging right now that we're starting to see greater interest in amongst our students.
So one big area is the applied behavior analyst area. And we had the first accelerated program in the United States for that ABA. We might still be the only one that has an accelerated program. And what that means is we have more and more students coming in. About a third of our students will say, I want to work with children with intellectual disabilities on the autism spectrum or different areas like that. And students already know, because they know either have a sibling or they've grown up or they've done work in a special ed class. Our Salve students who come to us are just amazing. And so we meet with them where they are and then continue to build on that. It's a very fast growing area with a high need that is not going to go away. So if you come to Salve, we do some careful planning and we have some undergraduate courses that support that. And then in their junior year, they apply to the graduate program. And if accepted, in their senior year, they're taking 12 credits towards their master's degree. And with just a little bit of summer work, can complete that master's degree in the very next year. And it's a rigorous program that prepares our students really well for the national licensing exam, and has supervised practicum opportunities. And our graduates have 100% employment, and often they are employed as they're in that program working with the clients and getting the supervision. So that's one big area. Another area that's not going to go away is the area of mental health, clinical psychology, no matter what age group you're looking at. We're experiencing some very hostile world times, right? Worldwide pandemic. Life is very intense, and we need people to guide us through in terms of mental health counselors and clinical. And again, a good number of our students will pursue that, and we have courses in theories of personality and abnormal psych and theories of counseling. And again, students who show that spark and start talking to us early, we will advise them into taking some holistic counseling programs, another master's degree program at Salve. And often I've got 4 students right now who are in that 5th year program, and a couple that are in, the regular program there. So that's a huge area. Another big area, again, is the biology, psychology with neuroscience and this idea of like health psychology and health and wellness. So another area that Salve is way beyond the curve is this wellness initiative. So in psychology, again, this didn't exist when I was in graduate school, but coming to Salve, I was encouraged as a professor to develop more areas of expertise. And so I've developed a positive psychology class while being here. We developed a mind-body health club, and now we have a whole wellness director and peer wellness educators. And again, that's looking at how we live well now. I'll give you a couple examples, and this is part of what I love most about Salve and doing things outside of the classroom. So years ago, I had finished the positive psychology class. We were coming to the end of the semester, and a student comes up to me and they say, a couple of students, we want to keep meeting. And I was like, I don't know what you want. The semester's over. We're done. You've earned your grade. And they're like, no. We want to meet every week with you and practice what we've learned in your class. My classes are very experientially based. So we learn something about the research, for example, on meditation. Meditation changes the neurons in the brain. After 4 days, they can track changes in the brain. It's very powerful to the positive. And so, wanting to meet my students' needs, I went through a 200-hour yoga teacher training and later a 500-hour meditation yoga teacher training so that I could bring meditation and incorporate it into my classes and outside. So this fall, we've been very fortunate with the weather, like you've been loving the fall. And so we've done 3 special outside of the classroom events. So I led a new moon meditation at 9 o'clock at night, a full moon meditation at 8 o'clock at night, and then a sunrise meditation at like 6:30 in the morning. And the students just are so open and so searching for this kind of experience together. And it's a really special experience. After these experiences, the students came up to me and they said, that it really helped them feel the most normal they felt, even though they had masks on and we were social distance. They were like, this was really profound to them, and it really shifted. And then last week, the weather was so beautiful, and the students were, worried about their workload and stuff, and COVID has added an extra layer to that. And so it was appropriate with the curriculum that I was teaching. I'm like, all right, biological psych, we're talking about, how to sleep, how to manage pain, how to manage stress, meditation. The research shows us. So we walked down to the ocean, and I did a 15, 20-minute coherent breath meditation and had the students write a reflection. And to a student, they were all stressed at the start, and then all of a sudden they felt that release of the stress and the burden. I never dreamed I'd be able to do this with students. And the other places, institutions I taught at, I didn't have those opportunities. And this is, again, that kind of unique thing that we can do together. As a community, we see something new and exciting, and we say, okay, does it make sense? Yeah, let's do it. So I wanted to share that as something that was well beyond things that I've done elsewhere.
The department truly is very creative in that way, that there's a willingness to sort of go outside the traditional box that I think most people think about in terms of psychology programs. And I think the FiveYear programs are a terrific example of that. I hope more students understand just what a great opportunity Salve provides, not just in psychology, but in actually 11 different areas where students can pursue both a bachelor's degree and a master's degree within 5 years. Not only the acceleration aspect of it, but also the financial benefit, frankly, associated with that, because it makes the cost of both degrees less by accelerating through, which is really terrific. There's also, I think a lot of students may or may not understand about psychology, that there's a lot of non-linear career opportunities. I know psychology is a popular major for students considering law school. You mentioned the relation to law enforcement, FBI, CIA, the opportunities for students that are perhaps considering advertising or other business associated. What are some of the other sort of non-linear opportunities for psychology grads?
There's a lot with business in terms of the marketing and fashion design and advertising, like you said. Again, with the arts, like we talked about, those are the big ones that I think of right off the bat. Education, of course. So we were at with the applied behavior analysis program. One of the parents who had come to an open house came up afterwards and told us that as a principal, she was sending her special ed teachers back to get the ABA degree. So come to Salve, do both. So we're partnering with the education department to see how we can make that happen more as well. There's also, so I forget the year, but we're going to be close to it soon. The highest age group in the United States will be those 65 years and older. So I had this beautiful experience with a student before. I was talking with her. She was like, I just don't know. I didn't have psychology, in high school. I really loved my intro to psych class. I've had a few classes. And I was like, well, tell me a little bit more about yourself. And then she lit up and she said, well, my favorite person, I have the best relationship with my grandmother. I said, there it is. She says, what is it? I was like, we're going to have you connect with the local nursing home, St. Clair's. It's almost walking distance to Salve. And you're going to volunteer there and work with their residents and see how that goes. Well, she got involved and she loved the residents. She did some beautiful programming with music, and she did some beautiful programming with aromatherapy. And the residents would just light up when this student came in. And so she continued to do that. And when she graduated, she was hired as their recreational counselor. And there's so many jobs like that where it's just so meaningful that you're bringing quality and joy into people's lives.
So to the students and family members that I know have logged in to participate in this discussion and are listening in right now, I encourage you to ask any questions that you have in the chat or Q&A box, and we certainly will address them. One of the students actually already has asked a question and wants to know, what are some popular minors for students that might be pursuing psychology?
So social work has a minor that's called human services, and that's a really popular minor because, again, you get that agency. You're going to be working a lot of psychologists work in agencies, and so you get a broad base there. The neuroscience and biology are really good minors. Special education, minors in music, art, or theater go really well. And now we just partnered with, we have a new major, dance major, and I just talked with the department chair of the dance, and we're going to partner with them so that they can get a concentration in psychology with their dance. And business, I have quite a few students who get a business minor. There's a health services, like health administration minor that works well. So there's so many things that work well. We have an increase in students interested in psychology and minoring in political science for that.
Another student has a very savvy question about the ABA. What's the first time pass rate on the National ABA board exam for our Salve graduates?
That is a really good question, and I don't have that answer. So we have a different person who's the director of the Applied Behavior Analysis graduate program. What I can tell you is that this director has come in and brought some new curriculum, redesigned the curriculum in alignment with the changes that are happening as we speak. So we're now ahead of those changes, and has designed a seminar that is taken at the end of your coursework that specifically prepares you for the BCBA to pass that. So we're very pleased with our new director and the directions there. And recently our students are passing, but I don't know the rate.
So Tatum, you're the person who asked the question. But by all means, feel free to email me, remind me of your question, and I'll make sure I get that answer for you. I put my email in the chat box for you to find and see. So Dr. Martasian, can you talk a little bit about, as we're coming down to the end of our time here, what do you enjoy most about teaching at Salve and certainly Salve students?
I really love the students' openness to learn new things, to be open to different perspectives. I love the discussion that we can get going. I love the smaller groups that we have. I also, there's something very different about the Salve students that from the other 4 or 5 places that I taught before coming here, and that I describe that as the generosity of spirit. I'm advisor to a couple of different student clubs, and in the past, some of the things, again, most meaningful, I described a little bit of the service trips that we've done, but also on island, we consider this your home. This is your home for 4 years, and you have neighbors and neighbors in need. And so psychology have partnered with other athletic groups and clubs, and we've done things like delivered Christmas to a family in need, and we have so much fun shopping and wrapping and eating Christmas cookies and music, and so I really treasure those kinds of experiences, and just again, getting to know the students and doing these outside of the classroom special things like the meditations that we lead. Students really, really love that.
So as a reminder to those logged in, if you have a question, please put it in the chat or the Q&A box as we're coming up to the end of our session here, but we do want to get any questions that you may have answered. But as we come down to the end, Dr. Martian, if you wouldn't mind just sort of sharing any additional anecdotes you might have about some recent Salve grads and some of their successes?
Yeah, so again, with our applied behavior analysis program, we've had students who have gone on, gotten their BCBA, their license, and they're working in programs for as a applied behavior analyst. We have students who now they went on from Salve and they get their master's in mental health counseling, and now they are living the dream that they wanted as doing private counseling and having their own private practice. I had a student who took a gap year and found this amazing program in Ireland where she was recreational director with youth and athletes. And from there, she applied and got into a master's degree program as a sports psychologist because she wanted to do that. They're just doing so many different things. I'm trying to think. They're just everywhere doing so many different things. And some, again, will work. So we also have students who really understand, are compassionate, and want to work with more severe behaviors, psychiatric behaviors. And so we have some that are program therapists at Butler, which is a local, or Providence, a psychiatric unit. A recent graduate is doing that similar type of work as a therapist in Presbyterian Hospital in New York, the psychiatric unit. So there's also that work that our students are getting involved with. Again, very meaningful, very, very much needed for that.
So Ashlyn has a question. Are there specific classes that are cooperatively taught by professors in the other science departments and psychology professors, or is the neuroscience minor more that you take courses from within each of the departments? So I think she's looking for some clarification on where neuroscience is taught and what maybe teams taught opportunities there are.
So right now we don't team teach courses. So for example, I teach two of the courses that are requirements for the neuroscience major. I teach the biological psychology course and I teach the cognitive psych course because those are specialties there. But we don't team teach at this point. And then like courses like hormones and behavior and psychopharmacology are taught within the biology department. I have had students do collaborative types of research that would involve both the psych department and the biology department and use that as that minor.
Terrific. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us this evening for this chat about the psychology program. And Dr. Martasian, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I know in this hybrid environment that we're learning in, it's created additional work for you as faculty to manage both students in person and remotely. And so appreciate you taking the time on a Sunday evening. To those that are logged in, if you're a senior, I strongly encourage you to get your application for admission in as soon as possible. The November 1st early action and early decision deadlines are coming up. And if you get your application in, we'll be able to get you a decision by Christmas at the latest, maybe even mid-December. So I strongly encourage you to do so. And please understand that those deadlines are for submission of your application form, your common application form, not necessarily for all your supporting materials, your letters of rec, etc. You can get those in after the deadline, but definitely press submit on that Common App so we can start the process of reviewing your application for admission to Salve. If you like what you see here, again, this is part of a series of programs that I host throughout the fall and frankly throughout the year to inform you more about activities at Salve. You can also follow me at Salve Admit Guy on Twitter and sometimes Instagram to learn more about the university, as well as my strange other interests in areas like music and theater and politics and all sorts of other ramblings about the state of the world. So thank you all for being here this evening. Dr. Martasian, thank you. And I hope everyone has I hope everyone has a wonderful evening. Good night.
Thank you. Take care.